Donald Trump just gave his acceptance speech last night at the Republican Party's national convention in Milwaukee, less than a week after an assassination attempt on his life. He currently leads Joe Biden by 3.2 percentage points per 538's latest national polling average, and then across the 7 key battleground states per Real Clear polling, Trump leads by an average of 4 points, with his margin of lead ranging from about a point in Michigan all the way up to 6 points in Arizona. Now, I fully expect that these already strong numbers will only improve for Trump over the coming weeks, given not only the assassination attempt, but also the typical post-convention boost, not to mention the continued uncertainty surrounding the Democratic nominee. Ultimately, whether or not Trump manages to prevent a second Biden term will come down to whether he can flip enough of these key battleground states back into the Republican Party's coalition to reach 270 electoral votes. Let's fill out a 2024 election map now based on the latest polls, starting out by marking down the safe states for Biden and Trump. Each of these states that you see here being marked in the darkest shade of blue or red voted for Biden or Trump by more than 8 percentage points in the 2020 election. And according to every major election forecast available to the public, Trump and Biden have a better than 85% chance of winning these states and keeping them in the Democratic and Republican corners in this November's election. And so that leaves us with just these 14 states, plus the 2nd Congressional District in Nebraska, as our key battlegrounds that are at least remotely in play for both candidates. Let's go through each of them now and assign a rating based on the most recent surveys. Starting out west and working our way back east, the latest poll in Nevada via Emerson College and The Hill has Trump leading Biden and the third-party candidates by 3 points, or 2.9% to be exact, with 42.9% to 40%, and independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at 7.1% among 1,000 registered voters sampled between July 15th and 16th, so entirely after the assassination attempt. Now, the reason that I am using a full field survey here rather than simply head-to-head between Biden and Trump is that RFK has indeed qualified for the ballot in Nevada, as claimed by his campaign. Nevada will go down tilting towards Trump here on our map. Keep in mind that margins between 1 to 3 points are tilt, 4 to 6 points lean, 7 to 9 points receive a likely rating, and those at 10 or above are solid or safe, while those below a point remain as toss-ups. Over in Arizona, Biden became the first Democrat to carry the Grand Canyon state since 1996, as he just narrowly beat out Trump by 0.3%. It was the second closest margin after Georgia, and it has shifted 9 points compared to the left compared to the rest of the nation since 2012, whereas Nevada, which voted for Biden by 2.4% in 2020, has shifted 5 points to the right, relatively speaking, over the last decade plus. And so as a result, Republicans have become increasingly competitive in statewide contests for U.S. Senate and governor in Nevada, whereas Democrats have now won 5 straight major statewide races in Arizona. The latest survey in Arizona comes via Insider Advantage, and it has Trump leading by 5 points in a head-to-head race against Biden among 800 likely voters, also surveyed between July 15th through 16th. Now, RFK has not yet qualified in Arizona. It's a notoriously tough state to get on the ballot in, and so that's why we're using this head-to-head version of this survey here. Arizona will lean towards Trump here with a 5-point margin. Then in New Mexico, the latest poll comes from Public Policy Polling. It has Biden leading Trump by 7 points among 505 likely voters in mid-June. That means New Mexico goes down as a likely Democrat state. It voted for George Bush in 2004, but has now backed Democrats in the 4 presidential elections since then by margins between 5 to 12 points on every occasion. So this would be a continuation of that trend. Notably, the 2020 election marked the first time since 1968 that New Mexico voted to the right of Colorado, which backed Biden by 14 points in 2020 and is now considered solidly Democratic. Finishing up the Southwest now, Texas has been an emerging battleground over the last 2 decades or so, yet Democrats enter this cycle with far less optimism than in years past. Biden received a higher share of the vote in 2020, 46.5%, than any Democratic presidential candidate since Jimmy Carter won Texas in 1976. Yet with context, it was ultimately a disappointing performance for the Democratic Party, as Biden had polled within a point or two of Trump headed into the election, and that led several forecasters to rate it as a toss-up going into election night. Yet Trump won by 6 points as Hispanic voters in South Texas left the Democratic coalition in large numbers. In fact, this Rio Grande Valley region saw the largest pro-Trump swing of any area in the entire country outside of Miami and Florida. And with Hispanics making up nearly 40% of Texas's electorate, those gains make it very hard to see a path to victory for Democrats anytime soon. The latest survey conducted by YouGov with the University of Houston between June 20th and July 1st shows Trump leading by 9 points among 1,484 likely voters. Trump is at 49% and Biden 40%. RFK has qualified in Texas, but he is only sitting at just 5% support here. We're going to place Texas in the likely Republican category with a near double-digit margin favoring Trump. Now, before we shift over to this Southeast region, please take a second to consider subscribing to my channel down below. According to my channel analytics page, nearly 90% of my viewers are not currently subscribed to my channel. So again, if you could just take a second to make sure that you are subscribed down below, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you. Alrighty, now here in the Southeast, there are 4 battlegrounds worth keeping a very close eye on come November 5th: Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Biden won Virginia by 10 points in 2020, becoming the first Democrat to do that since Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1944. Virginia was for a long time considered a reliably Republican state throughout the latter half of the 20th century. But Democrats have now won it in 4 straight cycles, though here in 2024, the polls have shown a much more competitive race than expected. This latest survey released by Emerson College and The Hill, the same survey we saw over in Nevada from July 15th through 16th, has Trump leading Biden by 2 points, 45.4% to 43.4%. It does come after 3 of the previous 5 surveys showed the 2 candidates tied. Ultimately, if Trump does end up coming anywhere close to flipping Virginia, then it's really hard to see a path to win for Biden. The Commonwealth is fundamentally bluer than most of the other battlegrounds on this map, and so since the polls here close at 7 p.m. among the first poll closing times on election night, it should give us an early clue as to whether Trump is on pace for a sweeping night or not. For now, we're placing it down as tilting Republican here based on that Trump +2 poll. And then just below Virginia, we have North Carolina, a perennially competitive yet Republican-leaning state in recent years. Trump won it by 3 points in 2016 and then by just 1 in 2020. The latest poll comes via YouGov and The Times between July 4th and 12th, and it has Trump leading by 4 points, with 46% to 42% among 871 likely voters. RFK has qualified in North Carolina, but again, his share of the votes is relatively insignificant at 4% here. Out of the 7 most competitive swing states, including North Carolina, as well as Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada across the Sun Belt, and then Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in the Rust Belt, the state of North Carolina has been the most Republican-friendly in recent years. Though with that said, if, and the key word is if there is a state on the 2024 map that Biden could potentially flip in November, it would be North Carolina. Though unless his numbers improve drastically, that's just not going to happen. His campaign is primarily going to be playing defense elsewhere. Here on our map, though, North Carolina goes in the lean GOP category. Let's go down to Georgia now. Florida Atlantic University's latest poll, surveying 549 likely voters, has Trump leading by 6 points here between July 12th and 15th. Trump 46%, Biden 40%. RFK has just recently claimed ballot access here in Georgia. He's at 6% in this poll. Biden did carry Georgia in 2020 by 0.2%. It was his narrowest win in any state, though we have not seen the Democratic president lead in a single survey here all cycle long. Georgia will also lean Republican here on our map. Keep in mind as well that according to Adam Carlson's crosstab aggregator of June surveys, Trump has gained a lot of ground among Black and Hispanic voters on average. Democrats have lost 31 points among Black voters since 2020 and 15 points among Hispanics, according to these polls. Now, these trends are especially significant, of course, in Georgia, where Biden rode a wave of unprecedented turnout among minority voters to victory in 2020. Finishing up the Southeast region now, we have Florida, an electoral giant with 30 electoral votes, the third most of any state. Florida was one of just 5 states in 2020 where Trump improved on his 2016 margin as he carried it by 3.4%, and it's actually only shifted further to the right since then as well. The latest survey released by Redfield and Wilton Strategies between July 8th and 10th is Trump up 4 points among 574 likely voters, 45% to 41%. This is another state that RFK has just claimed ballot access in sometime over the last 2 weeks, and Decision Desk HQ has actually managed to confirm his status with state officials as well. So Florida joins Georgia and North Carolina as leaning toward Trump here on our electoral map, and that lifts the former president up to 280 electoral votes, already passing the magic number needed to win the presidency, 270. And we still have a lot of states to go here across the upper Rust Belt and in the Northeast. Starting in Maine, a Biden plus 9 state in 2020, it has not voted Republican since 1988, yet the latest survey via digital research from back in April has Biden up only 2 points among 309 registered voters. Now, it's especially important to monitor RFK's ballot access here in Maine, since the state does use ranked choice voting, so if neither Biden or Trump hit 50%, which is very likely, then the outcome may come down to how third-party voters rank the two of them behind their preferred first-choice candidate. For now, though, on our map, we're going to place Maine down as tilting ever so slightly in favor of Biden. And just over in New Hampshire now, Biden plus 7 in 2020, it does tend to be the most competitive state here in the Northeast region, excluding Pennsylvania, of course, though it has voted blue in 7 of the last 8 cycles, so it is generally considered a Democratic-leaning state. Donald Trump did come less than half a point shy of Hillary Clinton in the 2016 race here, before it then reverted back hard toward Biden in 2020, again at Biden plus 7. Yet the latest poll by St. Anselm College has Trump leading by 2 points, with 44% over Biden's 42%, and then RFK at 4%. Now, St. Anselm College is a highly respected pollster, especially within New Hampshire, so this is definitely a very notable result following the first debate. Kind of like Virginia, if Biden does lose New Hampshire, it becomes increasingly hard to see a path to 270 for him, given most of these other competitive states are less Democratic-friendly, at least historically speaking. New Hampshire will tilt towards Trump, though, on our map here, based on that Trump plus 2 margin. Let's take a quick look now at the latest poll in Nebraska's 2nd District as well before we get to the Rust Belt. This one from July 8th through 11th was released by Torchlight Strategies. It's a Republican-sponsored poll by Republican Senator Deb Fischer, and it does have the 2 candidates tied at 42% support each. Usually in these videos, I don't include these types of partisan-backed polls, but this is the only poll here since May, so it is what it is. That is, of course, a pure toss-up rating on our map. This Omaha-based 2nd District voted for Biden by 7 points in 2020 and is rapidly left trending. Now all that's left is the upper Rust Belt quartet that have voted in tandem with each other in almost every modern presidential election. All 4 states went blue in the 6 cycles between 1988 and 2016 when Trump managed to flip Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, each by less than a point against Hillary Clinton. Now, she did manage to hold Minnesota by 1.5 points in that election, while Joe Biden then returned the core Rust Belt trio back into the Democratic corner in 2020. He won Pennsylvania by 1.2%, Michigan by 2.8%, Wisconsin by 0.6%, and Minnesota by a full 7 points. Let's start in Pennsylvania, which awards 19 electoral votes. Considering that Florida is now no longer considered a true swing state, Pennsylvania has quickly become the largest prize among 2024 battlegrounds, which also makes it the most likely tipping point state in this election. The latest poll just released in Pennsylvania by Public Policy Polling has Trump up 4 points, with 46% to Biden's 42% and Kennedy's 4%. 624 registered voters were sampled here between July 17th and 18th, so after the assassination attempt that took place here in Pennsylvania. This is also one of 5 polls to come out here after the debate, and they have each shown Trump leading by at least 4 points. Pennsylvania is yet another lean GOP state here on the map. In Michigan, generally considered the bluest of the 3 Rust Belt swing states, excluding Minnesota, of course, as it does consistently vote furthest to the left of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania at the presidential level and down ballot as well. The latest survey is from the same batch via Public Policy Polling as in Pennsylvania, and it does have Trump's lead at just a point here, with 45% to Biden's 44% among 650 likely voters. RFK Jr. is at 6% here. Something worth monitoring is Michigan is one of just 9 states in which DDHQ has independently confirmed with the Secretary of State's office that he will indeed appear on November's ballot. Now, you can make a strong case that Michigan is a must-win for the president's re-election campaign. It's likely that each of the other key swing states will vote to the right of it, so should Michigan lean towards Trump, the others will likely do so as well. For now, though, based on that 1-point lead for Trump, we're placing it down as tilting in his favor. Penultimately, Wisconsin, decided by less than a point in 4 of the last 6 presidential contests. It's actually the only state that was decided by less than 1% in both 2016 and 2020. The latest survey by Emerson College here shows Trump ahead of Biden by 4 points among 1,000 registered voters between July 15th and 16th. Biden had been consistently polling the best in Wisconsin out of the key swing states this cycle, so we will see if this latest poll is the start of a new trend here. It is worth noting, of course, that Trump outperformed the polls in both 2016 and 2020 by a greater margin in Wisconsin than anywhere else. Back on our map, though, it will be another lean GOP state. Alrighty, let's finish up in Minnesota now, where innovative research has Biden leading by 8 points here among 300 registered voters, 47% to 39%. RFK has officially been confirmed to have ballot access in Minnesota, where he is currently polling at 12%. Minnesota is another must-win for Biden after he won it by 7 points in 2020, so the fact that it will go down as a likely Democrat here is one of just a few good signs for his prospects. So, based on the most recent polls conducted in every single competitive state, Donald Trump leads with 329 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 208. Trump has flipped Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in the Rust Belt, as well as New Hampshire in the Northeast, Virginia and Georgia in the Southeast, and then Arizona and Nevada in the Southwest. That is all for today's video, though. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below so you don't miss future editions of presidential election analysis. You can also feel free to let me know in the comments below what you think of this map and these electoral race ratings. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Please leave a like on the video down below as well if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.